Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for clicking this video. My name is Nikki and this is another T channel where we discuss the big stories on YouTube. What's happening, what's going on, what catches my attention. So what has caught my attention is Bullhorn Betty and JLR, also known as Jonathan Lee Riches, has gone on against this man named James Terry, who is a private investigator out of Mississippi, and they have a real problem with him. They feel like he is exploiting the Dylan Rounds family in the case, which I find absolutely ironic because listening to these last few videos that JLR and Bullhorn Betty has had up, it's like they are now sitting in my seat. So they're mad and they're passionate because they feel like this man is taking advantage of these people in their most vulnerable state. Well, guess what? I feel like you're doing the same thing. So that's why I find it so ironic. What else I find ironic is a lot of times the comments that I get are, what are you doing to help the case? You know, you're just sitting there talking about it, but what are you doing? You don't have your boots on the ground helping. I am a voice for the family. I have had several family members reach out to me behind the scenes, and they have a big problem with these people. They're messy. They turn everything they touch, they turn into a circus. So I feel like I speak for them. But now I see the same thing. People are commenting to Bullhorn Betty and JLR, you know, why are you turning this into a back and forth into drama? Because they're showing up at this man's father's business. You know how JLR is. He always goes real life. They're calling police departments, taking up their time that they could be working on actual cases. They're reaching out to, it's a branch that is over private investigators, something about I can't ever say the word right, but they're the ones who oversee all that. That's the last I watched of Betty's. That's who she was trying to contact. So they're using up all these resources. And instead of everybody looking into this Dylan Rounds and this boy who's missing, now everybody's focus is on these two clowns' drama that they have with this PI. So if you don't know who Bullhorn Betty is, I've done videos on both of them in the past. I really need to do like a deep dive on them both, especially JLR, because he is the one that, he is just a grimy as all. He is the worst. Bullhorn Betty calls herself an activist, and she does, even in her local area, she goes to, school board meetings, and she does try to go, and she wants change. I will give it to her, she does put boots on the ground and wants change. But she is known for whatever comes out her mouth, the truth is the opposite. She likes to run with false information. She doesn't really fact check what comes out of her mouth. And it's not just, she'll say it happened once. It's not happened just once. It's several times, okay? JLR, which is like her partner, they had the Hills on the Ground, the three amigos, which was Bullhorn Betty, MGL, and JLR. But Bullhorn Betty backs JLR up to the high heavens. And I don't get how you can call this James Terry out while you're taking up for JLR. So if you don't know who JLR is, also Jonathan Lee Riches, which I can't for the life of me understand how people are on his channel saying, you're doing right in this case, you are for the children, you're doing so good, and blah, blah, blah. This man is a danger to others. And I don't just say that very lightly, like I do. I really hope he's on some kind of watch because he is not okay upstairs at all. I feel like he is somebody who is a narcissist, a true narcissist. I feel like he is somebody that could possibly do something really, really bad just to get that attention, because I believe he seeks that attention so much. So if you Google his name, all the information about him will pop up. He is known as a fraudster. He's a professional troll. He's known to be the most litigant man in the world. The Guinness Book Records called him that, and then he ended up suing them for calling him that. He made, I don't know how many, enough to put him in the record. All while he was doing a 10-year bit in prison is when he did all this. I mean, he's everyone you can think of, he sued. He impersonated Adam Lanza's uncle. Adam Lanza was the Sandy Hook shooter. He ended up getting arrested for that because he was on probation at the time, so he didn't have permission to go to Connecticut, so he was actually arrested. That's what they were able to get him on. He's a menace to society. He really is. He took a picture, and he pretended to be Derek Chauvin, which is the police officer who had kneeled down on George Floyd's neck. He took a picture pretending to be Derek, the cop, and wore a baseball cap that said, "Make America White Again," because he wanted to get that backlash, that uproar by everyone, which it did, of course. So why anybody would trust this man to look into any cases as sensitive as the cases that they're looking into, such as missing people, missing children, is crazy to me. So they're going after this James Terry. And I think they're big. This is what I gather from it, because, I do my homework. And it's literally like 1:30 in the afternoon, and I have been up since 5 o'clock watching every video I can possibly find, looking up all this information. And this is what I found after doing all that. This James Terry man is a obnoxious, nasty, foul-mouthed jerk. He is. He says nasty shit. He says the C-U-N-T word. He calls people fat. He's foul-mouthed. He is. He's very nasty. But does that mean that he's not good at what he does? Obviously not, because there have been news articles and interviews done. He has brought cases home. He has brought resolution to them. He's actually been out there doing real work and getting things done. So the Dylan Rounds family has a big problem with him. So if you don't know who Dylan Rounds is, he is a young man who went missing about a month ago, and the grandparents hired this PI, James Terry, to try to find their grandson. Well, to me, my opinion is the family, the mom and dad, didn't like the conclusion that he came up with, which there were talks of militia group, there were talks of homosexuality, which the family is Mormon, so that was a big problem. And I just don't think they liked what he was saying, so they ended up firing him. And in doing so, they're saying that, he kind of got mad that he got fired, so now he's making a point to go on these YouTube channels, whoever pretty much will hear him out, to spread this stuff about the family, which they have sent a cease and desist letter telling him to stop talking about the case. They said that the things that James is saying is malicious, unfounded, and incorrect. So I want to know what your guys' thoughts are. Do you think that this James Terry should quit talking about the Dylan Rounds case? Whether or not he respects the family or not, should he respect Dylan enough to stop talking about it? Or, because it seems like now he's more gung-ho to try to find out what happened. He wants the answers. So I want to play a few clips. And this was a news station that did a story on it.
The grandparents of Dylan Rounds hired this private investigator to help find him. But his theories aren't going well with the family.
No matter what the scenario is, it involves two people and two bits of evidence.
That's just been an absolute mess. And that's why I went public with the phone conversations.
Dylan Round's mother is upset with a private investigator who was hired by Dylan's grandparents in Idaho. He was paid to find out what happened to Dylan, who was last heard from May 28th. That investigator, James Terry, has gone on several YouTube channels and radio talk shows expressing his theories behind Dylan's disappearance.
The details of this case, which I was verified on finally last night by several callers on radio shows, have now vindicated me from some of the things I was saying.
Terry claimed Dylan got involved with the wrong crowd in the town of Montello, Nevada. The community of 50 people is about 30 miles from the nearby town of Lucin on the Utah side of the border. Dylan's farm is on the outskirts of Lucin. When his family arrived on Memorial Day weekend, it was abandoned. His boots were found.
So it seems that Bullhorn Betty and JLR's big problem with this man is that he claims to be a PI. From my understanding, that's their big stink about it all. As I've said, they showed up at his dad's work. They're calling the police. I don't know why I said it like that. They're calling the police and they're taking up all these resources, that the police could actually be working on real cases. But no, they're calling and trying to find out, is this man, what he's doing, is it legal, is it not? Is he allowed to be working these cases? Which, like I said, I feel like he does the same exact thing that they do, except I feel like he's gotten more stuff done, like he's actually got things accomplished. And the difference between is JLR and Bullhorn Betty, they hide behind the label as reporter, investigator, investigating reporters. That's what they hide behind. That's their label. And this James Terry, he calls himself a private investigator. So, is she right though? If because he has a PI license in the state of Mississippi. In watching these interviews and all that, he doesn't deny that. He said, they even broadcast he is a PI out of Mississippi. So technically he's not lying when he says he's a PI. He is a PI in the state of Mississippi. He's just leaving that out. He's leaving the state of Mississippi out. And in the state of Mississippi, you don't really have to even have a license. He has a business license. And he says something in the interview that some could take that as a loophole. Now, I looked up all the states, what it takes to get a PI license and all that. Every state's different. Mississippi, you don't really have to have one. So technically, he's not supposed to. There are some states that have this thing, and it's called state reciprocity, something like that. I can't say the word. But that just means that, now let's just say there's only like 7 states, and I could look it up if we really needed to. If you want me to, I could really get that research down there. Maybe I'll pop it up when I'm editing. But there's only like 7 states that actually have this. And I don't believe Mississippi's one. So it would be like, say, I had my PI license out of the state of Utah, but the case I'm working is out of Tennessee. So I could actually go work in Tennessee underneath my Utah private investigator license. But see, Tennessee's law is you have 15 days. So I have 15 days to get the case done in the state of Tennessee. Now, other states that have that, like I said, there's only about 7 of them. Some of them don't have deadlines, or some of them do, maybe 30 days. Like I said, Tennessee's 15. But they have different rules. So it seems like the real problem with Bullhorn Betty is that he's saying he's a private investigator. Maybe they feel like more people are thinking he's done more than what he's done with using that title. I'm not really sure. But if it makes him feel better, maybe he can just say, I'm a PI out of the state of Mississippi, but everywhere else I'm a investigating reporter. Because that's what they do. Like, are you kidding me right now? You guys, like, what is going on? Now, like I said, this guy is an asshole, okay? He's not the most professional person there is. He could probably act more professional. But does he have these cases, the best interest at heart in these cases? I don't know that either. I couldn't tell you. But this is what I got by watching him, is that he is a competitive person. I feel like he would want his name associated with winning. Like when someone speaks of him about past cases, he would want you to say, he found this person, or he wants to be associated with doing the job, getting the job done. So now, does that mean he has the best interest at heart? Maybe not. But I do think he wants to get the job done. And maybe that's why he's going so gun-ho now, because he started on this case. Again, he was hired by the grandparents, and now they fired him. But now that's gave him more power because he wants to see this through. Also, there's like $100,000 reward for the whereabouts, which I'm going to put, his photo, Dylan Rounds' photo, and the information to call if you have any information. And every video I talk about, I am going to have linked below in the description, so you can go check it out yourself. He does a lot of interviews. This James Terry does a lot of interviews on the No Thanks Investigates. So now that James Terry is officially off the case as a private investigator, now he's just a regular person who's inquiring about this information. Do you think that he should keep going, or do you think that he should respect the family? Even if he didn't respect the family, respect Dylan enough to stop talking about this case? Or does he have the right? Is he getting to the nitty gritty? Sometimes the truth ain't always pretty. Getting to the bottom of it. Sometimes we have to go through the mud to, get the right information. Let me know your thoughts below on that. I do want to cover a few things about James Terry and some cases that he has taken on. One of them is a young girl named Gloria Everardo. So they called this like a Romeo and Juliet story. She ended up going missing. She did that upon herself, but James was able to find this girl, and he never even had to leave the state. He never had to leave where he was at. He found her, started, getting her contacts, and he found her. He was able to talk her into going to, I believe it was a Walmart, where the police could finally get her home. I will play that interview now.
Missing for 75 days. Thursday night, the news her family had been praying for. The Taylor teenager, now 16, had been found alive and unharmed. We spoke with Gloria's mother, Tina, by phone about the emotional reunion.
It was just overwhelming, is the best way to put it, is just overwhelming. So happy. Tears of joy.
Flyers, vigils, the search to find Gloria was intense. A cut window screen and this grainy video, clues that would eventually lead a private investigator to the teenager.
I had it set in my head that no matter what, no matter how long it took, I was going to find her. One way or another, I was going to find my baby.
I'm worried sick about her.
Tina frequently spoke with the media about her daughter's disappearance.
She did see your news coverage, so she was able to follow this as it was happening, and she is now back home with her family thanks to the detectives who took it the rest of the way.
James Michael Terry, an out-of-state private investigator who never even came to Michigan, says he used his cell phone to put the pieces of the puzzle together and find Gloria, who was in the Metro Detroit area. And while he's happy he was able to find her, the PI will be the first to admit that he does not have a law enforcement background.
Now, no charges have been filed, and she's back with the family. That's not what I do. I'm a recovery guy, kind of like a repo guy. I have a pro football background. My background has nothing to do with law enforcement, so I don't know the laws or the rules.
Meanwhile, Tina hopes this story will help people realize the seriousness of missing children cases.
Just because I have her back, I don't want to back down. These kids need to be found. So many kids are been missing every single day, and they need to be found.
In Taylor, Camille and Mary, Fox 2 News.
So now, by Bullhorn Betty and JLR turning this into, like they do everything else, every time they touch something, they turn it into a circus, a mess. Now everybody is focusing on this drama that's going on between these people, and the focus isn't on what is really important, and that is finding out where or what happened to Dylan Rounds. So there was another news interview that I watched. I'm not going to play it. I'll just tell you about it. There was a woman, an elderly woman, and her name was Betty Count. She had, I would say, like a touch of dementia. She was not diagnosed with dementia, but her family would say that she would sometimes forget things and she would maybe wander off, which seems like what had happened. She wandered off, and they found her vehicle, and it looked like she was trying to turn around, and when she tried to turn around, her back wheels of the vehicle got stuck, and they did end up finding and locating her body, sadly. But the family hired James to help them with that case. There was another one that there was a young man. His name was Jed Hall, and he opened up new leads from the 16-year-old boy's death, that he was, I don't know how to say it. You got to really watch your words. He was going through some really tough things. He was having some mental health problems. It put a whole new lead to that case of where to look, and sadly, that is what happened. So they was able to locate his body. And there has been several more. So I ask you, maybe this guy is an obnoxious asshole, but what cases has Bullhorn Betty and JLR accomplished? What have they done besides, get laws in the state of Florida changed because they're interfering so much, I want to add that if these roles were reversed and Bullhorn Betty or JLR was coming up with the theories, the conspiracies regarding this case, would I be bothered by it? And the answer is yes. The reason why I don't feel as bothered as much by what he's coming up with is because the family hired him to look into this. And to me, that's the difference. But let me know what you guys think about it. Of course, you're always going to have people that have some kind of bad reviews about you. There are some people that don't like this man because he's an arrogant asshole. And there's some families that it didn't go over smoothly. You're always going to have that. If you run your own business, you're always going to have some good and some bad reviews. There's a woman, I was listening to her talk that her son went missing. I guess he was suffering from addiction. He didn't want to be found, but they hired James to go find him. A week after hiring him, they ended up, the young guy, ended up calling home and letting the family know where he was at. So then they no longer needed James's help anymore, and they felt like they deserved that money back because he really didn't do no work. So obviously there's some stuff there. There are going to be things, people that aren't happy with your services, but does that outweigh the good that he has done? Say for this young woman, bringing her home. I'm sure her family looks at him like a savior. He brought their daughter home. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Should Bullhorn Betty and JLR be going at this man? Is this interfering once again and taking away real cases that could be getting accomplished? So this is the live that Bullhorn Betty did, and it's, why are you harassing innocent families? That's so ironic. So between the two of them, they have done many videos. They have lives where they're calling up, police chiefs, and these two are something else. But I want to play the video about the rebuttal. So this is the video of the rebuttal from James Terry.
He was on the phone with him. If you guys didn't remember, JLR called this Gulf Coast investigation. This guy, Steve or whatever his name was, had no clue who you were.
He called me tonight. Here's what he said.
So this is the owner of that.
So JLR, to give a little bit of background, called this business because James Terry says that he is from Gulf Coast Investigates. So they called, this is what he's saying, they called this company called Gulf Coast Investigates, which he will claim that they're not the same, they're not the same business. There's a little bit of a difference in their names so JLR didn't even call who he claims to work with. I know it gets confusing. But JLR called this man and said, okay, well, this James Terry is claiming that he works for you. And of course, this man didn't know who James Terry was. And this is where we're at with this.
The guy that did, he called him. He had a lot to say, like, I don't know this guy and we should know everybody and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, he called me tonight. He's gotten 3 calls this week. So and I had reached out to him and hadn't gotten him, but it's a holiday weekend. We've done a lot on this show and other shows just in the last couple of days. Banks haven't even been open, right? Tomorrow's Tuesday. So here's the deal. So the guy called me tonight, finally called me back. We spoke for about a half hour. He's a licensed PI with a family business in the state of Mississippi, just like I am, and the license is a business license, whether you like it or not, whether you believe it's a loophole or not, that's the bottom line. And here's how it works. He calls me and he says, what the fuck? He says, I've been in business for years and I'm getting more calls for you than I'm getting for me. What's going on?
This guy, when he talks, he reminds me of that one guy, that comedian. What's his name? Gilbert. What's his name? Let me look it up real quick. Gilbert Gottfried. Is that his name? That's what his voice reminds me of.
He should hire you.
First of all, his business is not called. We looked my business up last night on the website for the businesses, and there's only one Gulf Coast Investigation in the state of Mississippi. His business license and his business name is Gulf Coast Investigation of Mississippi. He takes of Mississippi off of it when he does his website and stuff. So technically, the name of his company is Gulf Coast Investigations of Mississippi. Totally different fucking name. That'd be like being called Burger King of Kansas City. And so it's not the same fucking business. He said these people call from blocked numbers. They call from text apps.
So they called and bothered this guy. So that was his rebuttal of why the man that they ended up calling didn't have no clue who he was, because it's 2 different companies. This is going to be a clip of how he feels about them.
Really look hard to tell why those people are unhappy. They're unhappy with their lives. They're unhappy with their marriages, their families, their businesses, and they've got to.
He's talking about Bullhorn Betty, JLR, and I believe MGL too.
YouTube platform for the first time in their lives, not in high school, not in junior high, not in college, which they probably didn't go to, and that doesn't mean they're bad people because they didn't go to college. Nothing's been successful. They put on a shitload of makeup. They get a YouTube channel. They act like they're crime advocates. But let's just say I'm the biggest fraud in the world. Name me one case any of them broads have solved. I'll wait.
Yes.
Yeah, by the way, can someone post Jim's?
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think he is a very nice guy, but it seems like he is getting some jobs accomplished. And if my child was missing, I don't care what your bedside manner is. I want you to be, a bulldog. I want you getting out there and, getting nitty gritty to get the information. I don't care what you have to do to get the information.
Gritty, and then after that, Crime and Justice and I can get into the case.
Sure.
Let's talk about what's going on. We have this Bullhorn Betty. We have these people.
So as always, none of this is ever in order. You know me. Everything's all over the place. This is the clip that should have been played first. But this is, them introducing of what's going on between him and Bullhorn Betty.
People attacking you. And Bullhorn Betty. And Betty. Okay, well, were you on Molly Golightly's show or Bullhorn Betty's?
I don't know much about Molly Golightly. I was on her show one time, absolutely shredded her about a year ago. Well, let's go Blowhorn Betty because what's his Blowhorn? What the fuck's that bitch's name?
She looks like Dog the Bounty Hunter's wife that passed, Beth. She looks like a skinny Beth Chapman.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go into. I called into her show.
Let's talk about this first. First, she called you a fraud. She's been calling you a fraud, but she hangs out with a fraud, Jonathan Lee Riches. He said a fraudster. I'm an ex-fraudster. I could call it a fraudster. Meaning, and he said that in his chat to you. I sent it to you. And I was laughing, and everybody else was like, really? They're like, you're an ex-fraudster? Laughing about it, right? So, They were calling you out, but needless to say, Bullhorn Betty and Molly Golightly had wish lists. They went to Tennessee looking for summer wells. They got all this stuff on a wish list from Amazon, from all these people who donated. Spy pens. They took into a church, right? And used spy pens and illegally filmed people in a church. And then
a minor child
sent the spy pens back to Amazon for the money. Everything they got for that case to go searching, they sent back to get the money. To get, and it was refunded to their Amazon account in a credit. So they made money. They got to buy laptops off you guys and got all this other stuff, right? But they're going to turn around and call you a fraud. I have a problem with it.
Do you want me to respond?
Me too, Doug. I have a big problem with it too. Let's wrap this up. So what is your thoughts regarding all this? Should Bullhorn Betty and JLR be calling this man out because he is investigating where his license doesn't take him? Is this taking the focus off the real issues at hand? Should they just leave him alone? What are your thoughts about this PI, James Terry? Should he be leaving this case alone, or should he continue? You know, if you have any information, you want me to look into anything or send me, my Gmail is notanothertchannel1@gmail.com. Never hesitate to contact me. I want to leave this off by playing one more thing that I stumbled across. These are ex-detectives or cops, and I thought what they had to say was very important, and this is just truly how I feel when I'm watching these channels, some of these true crime channels that I feel like are exploiting these cases. And I think the reason why so many people watch and view these cases from them is because I feel like we're just nosy people at heart. I'm nosy too, but at what cost? What cost do I need to find that information? You know, I want to know about that too, but if it's going to interfere with a case or stop a little girl from being found, then I don't need to know that information. And I think that's the problem. And that's why so many lines get crossed. It's because people they feel like the cops aren't sharing everything, which they're not going to in any case. You're not going to know everything. That's why we don't need to be coming up with conclusions of our own, because there's so much stuff that we don't know as the public. So let's go ahead and play that. I want to finish that off.
Could be reasons that might not seem logical to you, but however, law enforcement, leave it to them. They're the experts.
100%. You know, folks, so many of the things that are known to law enforcement, they keep, of course, very close to the vest, because if they do put it out there, it can compromise the investigation, and that's the last thing you want. Right now, we don't have Dylan. The goal is to get Dylan.
That's right.
To recover Dylan, whether he's alive or deceased. The goal is to get him, to find out what happened. And by releasing information prematurely, or even some content creator putting stuff out there that doesn't belong out there, it can totally 100% compromise the investigation. And that is counterproductive to what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. And specifically, I'll go one step further. Interviewing people that are principals in an investigation is a no-no. I'm sorry. And Bill has said it and I had said it. If it's our investigation and someone was to do something like that, we would caution the person not to do interviews, not to speak. And we would also speak to the person trying to do the interview, whether it be a news media outlet or whoever, and say, listen, back off. This is a very sensitive case. That person's a primary and we don't want them spoken to. And unfortunately, there's people that'll cross that line. We know a little bit better because we were on the inside. We were investigators. And part of holding back information is part of the investigation. You know, we want to keep the cards. We want to keep it, as they say, close to the vest. We want to hide our cards. We don't want to show our cards. And that's very, very important in having a successful conclusion to an investigation, which, you know, we lead to an arrest and we lead to charges if there's criminality found. Now, in this case, we don't know what it's going to be, but
yeah, I mean, you don't want to taint the jury pool. You don't want, I know everybody wants the cops to hurry up and make an arrest, but if they jump too early, it could ruin everything. So many people don't understand that, but I will link their channel below too. I really liked what they had to say. He made a comment that a good investigator doesn't share important information that could potentially compromise an investigation. So then that's going to lead me to the very last thing. Do you believe that this PI, James Terry, is he compromising this investigation by now going to all these YouTube channels and sharing the theories that he has on the Dylan Rounds case? Let me know all your thoughts below, and I will see you guys really soon. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. That would be great. Hit the notification bell. You have to hit the notification bell, because if you don't, you won't know when I put out videos. YouTube will only notify you if you hit that notification bell. Subscribe, like this video. I would appreciate that. Comment below. That helps put this video out in the algorithm, and I appreciate you guys so much. And as always, until next time, stay safe. Bye, guys.